I have. I've been a little bit behind. With various things in life, I've been a little bit behind on listening to the podcast. But I did listen to the. It's troublesome because I can't see the titles in my view on. I have to see the titles in the application, the notes application. But I was going to say I listened to the At Least They'll Believe a Bear Attack. That's 194, and I like the Beach Blonde Bad Built Butch Body song that you did choose. It was a good one. She shared the original video. I did like that choice.
Thank you.
I put Slack in here because I knew that you'd created a Slack, and I have set my Slack up on here a while ago, but we don't ever use it. And I was gonna send you a message in the podcast Slack, and two things. I didn't know if JF was a part of that Slack, and also I realized at some point the history will go away because of the free model. And I wondered what your thoughts were on that.
I know JF is in that Slack, even though I don't know that he has ever signed back in after the first time. But I mean, I use it. Well, I generally keep Slack running because all right. I have really strange workflows and notes habits.
That's okay. I know. Before you continue with that, I just want to make sure that I know you have strange workflows and habits. I saw that you one time had an external display on your MacBook Pro, and the only thing that showed up on the external display was the desktop background and the task switcher. I don't know that that was on purpose or not, but it was definitely more than one time that I saw you doing that, and it was hilarious.
Yeah, it was on purpose. So where I was going with that is I have like a workspace set up for the podcast. I have one set up for family and one set up for the business. I'm the only one who uses them at this point, so I just pick a random tab and whatever I'm wanting to notate, I'll notate, and I don't worry about my, quick little notes because it's going to go away. The whole point of the free stuff anyway. So I use it as I want to come back to this in a minute, like environment.
Like a scratch pad.
Yeah. And I don't know why, other than the fact that then I don't have to clean it up ever, like if I were keeping a scratch text note or something instead. So I can be more consistent about using the different workspaces according to what I'm doing without a problem. But that's kind of that's what I was hesitating with, because it's like, well, I mean, I have no problems using it. I enjoy using it. I keep it open anyway. I may or may not be in that workspace, but I should still see the notification either way.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the same as messages. Of the application open or not, you're going to see the notification.
Yeah.
So, okay. Maybe I'll try it out and see, because I can't think of a time where it's like, oh, I really wish I could go back to and see because like anything that I feel like we'd want to keep is going to be in the note.
Yeah, or in messages.
Oh, I was just thinking of using Slack to communicate about podcasting.
Well, that's what I'm meaning. Like anything of any real importance, I would assume we would have captured in the notes anyway. And then if not, it's probably not specifically the podcast that we'd want to go back and look at something. Right. So that'd be messages. Right.
Yes.
But yeah, anything for the show, I mean, that's fine.
The other thing is, I was going to ask you if you have watched Earth at Night in Color on Apple TV Plus.
I have not watched all of them, but we have watched a couple.
Okay.
And it's been phenomenal. I just haven't gotten back to it. Because we were watching them with Jacob, and then timing hasn't been such that we've continued them with him. So I've kind of waited until we have a spot open. So I haven't felt rushed to complete it, but the only reason is because we were watching it with him.
I was thinking, I watched it because I was like, this looks cool. And then I saw, they even, I think this Life. I think it was Life. It was the same folks that did Planet Earth, and it was the one I think it was the documentaries, the series that they released after Planet Earth, narrated by, I can never remember if it's Richard or David. David was in Jurassic Park, so I think it was Richard. Am I right? Doesn't matter. It was one of the Attenboroughs. I mean, when I say it doesn't matter for the podcast. But the
You would think
Park,
anyway.
Right. The Jurassic Park, when if it's not, then it's this. It doesn't matter. We're seem too dismissive for what I actually meant, and it's. I don't know. There's no way to recover. Anyway, I believe David Attenborough was the Jurassic Park actor, and I think he has passed away. And Richard Attenborough was provided the narration life. Anyway, there's a afterlife. There's a hey, here's how we actually went on location and shot this, and I like that they showed. They did a similar thing at the end of each episode of Earth at Night in color about here are the cameras that we use because that's what's making us possible. And I really thought that if you hadn't seen it, I was like I needed to bring it to your attention because I think you would like the whole content, but I of all the people I know, I think you would appreciate the shot in the dark segment at the end of each episode more than anything.
Yeah, the first one we watched, I will never forget what all went through my head, from a viewing perspective. It's like just the way they do the intro and the transition to make just the intro piece go from how dark and unlit it was to clear as day kind of thing. Like that alone caught my attention, and then I had to watch after that. It's and anyone who appreciates anything surrounding cameras, it is well worth the watch.
I have another camera question to ask you about in just a moment, but I wanted to do some real-time FU, and I had it backwards. Richard Attenborough was the actor in Jurassic Park. He lived to the ripe old age of 90 and 360 days. He passed away 5 days before his 91st birthday. And his brother, David, narrator for Planet Earth 2, Life, there's a number of BBC documentaries, and he's about 13 years younger than him. He's still doing it.
He's narrated a lot of things.
Yeah. There's so much good video of animals that has stuff that's like never before seen on video or never before caught on video that his voice for me is synonymous
with nature documentaries.
Yeah.
I will say I've enjoyed some of the choices of other documentary narration over recent history. For example, talking about Earth at Night in color, I've enjoyed having Tom Hiddleston be the narrator.
I do have a couple of criticisms of the narration. It's one, sometimes I feel like he's just a little bit, his pace is a little too slow. But I do like his, overall, I do appreciate his narration. But the thing that my larger criticism, and it's like I get why they have to do this, but every episode or the narration for each episode is such that it is the only episode, and I understand why they do that, or consequently, in every episode they make note of like this what you're seeing is at night, even though it does look like a weird day. Maybe like at some point early on in a lunar eclipse, solar eclipse, one of the eclipses where the sun, moon. I'm so bad. One where the moon blocks the sun. It's kind of has that kind of look to it, but it's like no. We have really awesome cameras. Like the camera technology is such that we can record daytime and now you can see, we can record nighttime and it looks like daytime and you have the color. And so they make mention of that in every episode that I've watched. And it's a little bit repetitive, but I get why they're doing it because somebody might just pick, I want to see the fourth episode because it's, bears in the woodland. So right. I get it. Anyway, that was all I had to say about that, but I was going to bring up a camera. What did we neglected to talk about the camera that Apple mentioned in their keynote for recording in optical stereo. I don't know if that's the right way to Is that the right?
And
Might be the right term.
What did they call it? Spatial video?
Yeah, it was spatial video, but Canon released a lens.
Yeah, I paid a little bit of attention to it. It's a specific mount or a specific lens for the Canon R6, I think, which I don't know why they're calling it out specifically tied to an R model number, unless there's something in the camera firmware that's required to make this happen, because the mount is the same across the entire R range.
Right, but there could be something required in the body for
right
hardware to be able to capture.
Right, but I would think that would then work on any of the other RF cinema capable cameras, unless there's just something very specific about that particular model camera, which again could be. I'm not saying there's.
It could be very specific that Canon only wrote firmware for that one particular body, so you have to buy that body.
It could be, and it could very well be that
because they want to sell that body for certain reasons.
Well, and it could be that it just makes the most sense to start with that body and see if it's adopted, because it is a very niche type of video content. I have no plans to record anything and distribute anything at this time in spatial video or whatever they're calling it. We'll see. I thought it was interesting that they partnered with Canon for that specifically, and they mentioned DaVinci Resolve for editing that footage.
Yeah, I did notice that, and I think if it had not been for you, I wouldn't have really paid attention to DaVinci Resolve.
It is kind of interesting to see. I've seen a lot of general muttering about tools recently, specifically because of Adobe's terms of service thing, where I think it's being misinterpreted, but I don't care. The only thing I use from Adobe at this point is Lightroom, and I'm going to continue to use it because there's not a quality replacement made by another company at this point in time. And most of the people that are complaining there are Premiere Pro editors. And then on the flip side of it, I've seen a lot of not necessarily discontent with Final Cut Pro. I think the people who are using it, generally use it, are happy with the tool set and everything else. But I think there's more discussion among people who collaborate with multiple other people for portions of a production, which is where DaVinci Resolve really shines. And so it's been interesting to see from both camps more and more people say, hey, I think I want to give Resolve a shot, or I'm interested in migrating some of my workflow to Resolve, or just hearing it come up in conversation more and more. And it may only be because I'm reattuned to these circles again, where I had ignored them largely for a while. But it just seems really interesting to me that there's a lot of conversation around Blackmagic Design in general, who makes DaVinci Resolve. And DaVinci Resolve in particular, that I'm hearing that I don't know that I would have heard a year ago.
So it's interesting you say that, because I remember hearing this kind of mutterings in 2008, 9, 10. And I think what, I don't know, it's just a wet finger in the air, but I think what I was hearing, why I was hearing it, was because there were people who started working on video, and Final Cut was, an obvious step. They had Max, and Final Cut was definitely needed. iMovie was not going to cut it, so Final Cut Pro, and then Final Cut Pro became, got to a place where it's like, okay, I've been using this, but Blackmagic has made, they have software offerings that are going to do more for me. And so I remember hearing similar kind of mutterings 15 years ago about this kind of thing. So
yeah, and I was strictly in photo land at that point. So I didn't even try to keep up with anything that was going on the video side of things. I always looked more at Premiere as being the kind of de facto competitor, just because of its cross-platform status. But I never really investigated alternatives. And surprisingly, there's another one that is also, I was about to say it's open source. It may not be open source. It may only be free. Either way, one of the things I really like about Blackmagic Design's stance is that DaVinci Resolve is free to use. There are some features that are only available in Studio, which is a paid license. But if you buy most of what they have comes with a Studio license. There are a few exceptions. It's basically, as long as you spend a couple $100, you'll get a license for Studio. And at the moment, that license is perpetual. I expect that to change at some point, but hasn't yet. Which is all good for really getting your tools out in the hands of people who want to incorporate them and do great things with them and spread the word, right? Like it's almost like if you're going to make the software anyway, and you want to really proliferate its spread and really corner a market. I mean, Apple kind of showcased this with the way they did OSs when they eventually went to a practically free model for the OSs. Adoption skyrocketed, and so a lot of small shops who might be not doing a lot of video, but they're adding it to their workflows, they benefit from this kind of model because they can use DaVinci Resolve and do a lot of complex stuff for free. And then they get better with it, and then they decide to, invest in a licensed model or buy other stuff from them for specific use cases. And I don't know. It's refreshing to see that model continue to be successful. Maybe a slight rant there.
No, I don't have a lot to add on to that. So you covered everything. So I have a perfect segue into the next thing that I wanted to mention.
All right.
And that is just start talking about it. So I don't know if it made it into the cut. I haven't quite gotten there. I don't know if it made it in the cut for the episode that I talked about this, but when we were in California, we went to the Peak Design Store, and I asked them if I could do, I took my backpack in. I mentioned that 2 years ago when I went, I wasn't able to do a warranty exchange of my backpack for an issue that they said, hey, actually took my backpack in. I said, is this covered by warranty? They said yes. They looked to see if they had any replacement backpack, and they did not. So, and I never followed through because it wasn't a big issue. When I went this time, asked the same, I said, I was told this could be replaced under warranty. They said, oh, for sure, we'll replace that under warranty. I said, do you have one? The last time I was here 2 years ago and nobody had one, and I just haven't taken the time to do the, process through the mail. And they said, let me go check. And they went and checked and said, yeah, we do have one. And then through the course of conversation, Becca had previously told me, she's like, I think, because she has the same everyday backpack, but the 20 liter, and she's like, it's too, she's like, it's small. She's like, I wanted it small initially, but like I pack, she packs it quite a lot, and I think she had it like pop open, like the zipper pop. I don't think it didn't, like the teeth didn't separate, but I think it just unzipped because it was so full, and so. She was talking about, she had already had made mention of it when she was packing the day before, that she was thinking about going to a bigger one. And I said, well, I saw the 30-liter travel backpack, which wasn't around when I got the everyday backpack. And I was like, I told her, well, I was kind of thinking of getting one of those. I've been thinking about it on and off. And I said, I wonder if they let me exchange my 30-liter everyday backpack for a different color, the color that you like, so that you'd have one. And she's like, yeah. And they would. They said, yeah, that's fine. They said, we'll be happy to do that. So I thought that was really cool. They offered, they were like, it's, there was like no hemming and hawing. It's like, yeah, we'll do that exchange. And I thought that was really cool. And on top of that, they like took all the stuff out of it, like the straps, the sternum strap, and they're like, you want to keep these? They took the key holder, that goes in the pocket. They said, the travel backpack doesn't have one. Do you want this one off of your old one? I was like, sure. So basically all they want is the backpack back. They don't, the dividers, they didn't care about the straps so I have a whole bunch of extra straps, and I got a keeper for mine, and yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I cannot emphasize how much I love that company at this point. I know we've talked about it before. Um, I have 3 or 4 bags from them that I don't even use regularly. It's just I had a use case for a bag at the time, and if I was going to buy one, damn it, I was going to buy one of theirs because at least I know full well that everything's going to be taken care of if I ever have a problem with it. And even on the mail side of things, I had to have one bag swapped, and when I boxed up I got the bag. It was still in the wrap and everything, right? I just pulled it out and put the old one in the packaging to ship off, just to go ahead and get it out of the way. And didn't realize at the time that what they sent was the bag with new dividers and everything else, because I had pulled the old dividers out of the old bag. And so I followed up that same day that I shipped it out with an email. Hey, I just dropped this off and I didn't open up the replacement until now, and I noticed that, all this is still here. Do I need to ship this other stuff to you? And the response back was, nope, you're good. And
I know. I mean, it's really cool.
yeah, so I have a whole stack of dividers that I don't use that are like, I have too many dividers because I don't use that many, generally speaking, the way I pack a couple of the bags. But I would much rather have that problem than be really wanting something out of the company that they weren't providing. Like, I will tell anybody to buy a PD bag over any other brand at this point, just because of my experiences with them.
Both of my kids wanted them, and I'm like, we'll see. So, but I think I've created a problem in Jude because while we were there, he saw both Luke and Jude have hand-me-down phones, and consequently, they have hand-me-down cases for those phones that are Peak Design. And Jude saw the wallet stand, and he tried it out, and he was like, "I really want this." And I was like, "Are you sure?" I was like, we're gonna go to like Yosemite, and we're gonna go to the gift store, and they have some really cool souvenirs there." And he's like, "But I really want this." And he, I said, "I will have a certain amount in mind, and if you don't find anything that you like better at the gift shop at Yosemite, we'll come back, and if we can, we'll come back. If not, if we can't come back, I'll order it online for you." And he looked at the gift shop at Yosemite, and he was just, "Nope, I want that wallet." And I'm like, "Okay." And so I got him. We went back on the way back out, and I picked up that wallet for him. So,
And I certainly have nothing I have such a huge problem personally. Like, I have so much money invested in Peak Design gear that
oh yeah,
and some of it just sits not even being used. Again, referencing back to, I have 3 bags right now that are not in use, I think, and like 5 that are. Yeah, I mean, I have too many. Well, I'd say that, but I turn around and find uses for them, so I don't have too many. But
well, I mean, it's like, so I got the 30-liter travel backpack because I thought the 45 was bigger than I wanted it for what I was thinking I had in my mind. But I started using it, and I was like, I like it, but I also missed a lot of the pockets and the open. I already missed the 30-liter, so I'm probably gonna get one of those in addition to the travel backpack. And if I ever went back to an office on a regular basis, I would probably get the messenger bag as well.
So you think you'll get another 30-liter everyday backpack?
Yeah. Yep.
Do you go with the mag latch or the zip?
Mag. I zip it. So I zip them, and I actually do the on their. This is all the features of the bag video on YouTube. They have here you can loop these in together, loop the zippers together so that they don't. So that they don't accidentally open, but also nobody can pull them open. Like if somebody was trying to rob you, they can't pull them open because it'll just unzip and zip at the same time, and it'll only open up maybe like an inch. I have used the I don't know however many years I had that bag. I had them looped together like that for the entirety. So I just use it as a mag latch top loader.
The only reason I ask is I do have the 130-liter backpack that I do not know if I will go back to at the moment. I have 2 of them. I have one that's pretty new, that's in charcoal, that I had a use case. I used it, but then I no longer had the use case. And I'm perfectly happy keeping it available because I always find another use for a bag anyway. But if it sits unused long enough, that might be one that I will be parting with. That would be the only one out of my collection that I may or may not find an alternative use for.
Well, if it comes to that place, let me know.
Will do.
I've actually gone with black on everything that I've gotten. But it's so I swapped out my black one for a charcoal one because that's what Becca was using. Because wait, charcoal's the darker one. Ash is the light gray one, correct?
Yes, ash is the light gray. I have an everyday backpack in ash. I have an everyday messenger in ash. I have an everyday backpack in charcoal. I have an everyday messenger in charcoal. I have 2 travel duffels, one in sage, one in black. I have a travel backpack in sage.
Are they 30?
Yes, the duffels are 30.
Okay.
The travel backpack is 45. And I have a first generation, no, maybe second generation sling in ash. Because it was a little bit larger or a little bit smaller. I don't remember. The first generation sling Emily has, even though I don't think she uses it anymore.
I mean, you have it in marriage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I bought it for her, so.
I expected that anyway, but I was going to say, did you say that, I can't remember does the current 16-inch MacBook Pro fit in the messenger bag? I know the 14 does.
I never tried, and I no longer have a 16-inch Pro to test.
I know.
It did fit in the Gen 1, but I know that there's a size difference between that one and the current one. So
I know that the touch bar did not fit in the 2 messenger bag.
Yeah, and it did fit in the Gen 1. So I
right.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I think I actually, the use case that I wanted the travel backpack for, the 30-liter travel backpack for, I think I'll be able to use next month. So I have basically a 2-night fly out, do work for a day and a half, and then fly back home next month. So I'm going to try it then.
I really like the 45-liter travel backpack. What I'm tempted to do is to replace my other everyday 30 with another travel 45. That's kind of what I've been looking at, because the travel 45 fits my use case so well for carrying equipment on location. But I also just picked up a Pelican case for some specific lighting and audio equipment, and so I'm wanting to see how much I can merge between my existing 45 and that Pelican case before I go adding yet another case to the mix.
Yeah.
Because what it comes down to is I want a on-location, comfortable mobile deployment build, and then I need to bring everything for this production, and that's just going to be, however many cases it takes.
Right. I was going to say, anything where you're carrying camera equipment, I can totally where you're carrying camera equipment for setup. I could see how the travel backpack either size makes so much sense because of the way it opens, and you've got the clips in there so that if you put in the cube, it just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the way mine stays kitted is with the medium and the small cubes attached. So that fills up the entire cavity. But
yeah, that's what I figured.
And I could go with just the one large cube, but I like having the separate ones because the small cube keeps the secondary camera and its lens separate from everything else with the padding around it. And then the large cube has lights or modular lights, a couple of mobile tripods for the lights, a bunch of random stuff that I just don't want mixed in with the camera body and lens. So I like having the 2 separate things, but really the large one is just a whole lot of extra stuff.
Right. I was going to say my collection now consists of uh, 30 liter travel, 30 liter duffel. I have, I guess, I think those are the only two I have. Never mind.
Well, you've got the small
I mean,
cube too.
I have the small cube. I have several of the packing cubes. Do you use their packing cubes
Yes.
for clothing? And I at this point I will only get the raw material and the white. It is fantastic.
I don't have any in the white. All of mine are charcoal. But I think that's, if I remember correctly, when they first launched, they were only available in charcoal.
That's right. I mean, the white and the sage are relatively new. Maybe they released them sometime last year. It wasn't long.
But yeah,
not more than 2 years.
So when we travel, what's funny is I have an away bag that's the carry-on size that I use with the Peak Design packing cubes. And then if I need to add something else, I'll grab one of my duffels.
Yep. That's actually what we did when we went to California. I had all of the camera equipment in the 30-liter duffel, and I checked it, and I felt confident that everything in there would be totally fine because I had a small camera cube clipped into the duffel, and then I had other equipment like tripods and so forth filling up the rest of it. So there was not a lot of movement. So put it in there. It was like totally confident it would be fine, and it was. And I mean, those camera cubes are solid. And then I was using the everyday backpack, 30-liter everyday, which I swapped out for the travel in the same volume. And one of the things that I've always, like, there have been a number of times where I've taken a trip and I was like, I'm using only half of I have an away rollerboard bag that's carry-on size. And there's been a few times for like short work trips that I've taken it, and it's like, this is only half empty, and it's kind of weird to take this, but it's like, I don't feel comfortable getting everything in my backpack, and that's why I thought I'd try the 30-liter travel backpack. But now I'm like, I'm also like, there have been times we had when we were coming back from California, we could have checked everything. We had to check some stuff, but Becca got upgrade. We both got upgraded, and so the way we actually traveled was Becca had companion passes for the status that she had received last year, I think, and so we were able to buy. She bought a ticket for herself and used a companion pass, so that it was a free ticket on the same flight for Luke, and then I got my ticket. They were all purchased together, but I got my ticket and used the companion pass for Jude. So he and I sat together, and Luke and Becca sat together. And Becca, because of she's platinum medallion with Delta, and so she automatically always gets upgraded to Comfort Plus. But on the way back, on just the Atlanta to Birmingham leg, she got upgraded to first class. So because she had one leg at first class, she could check 2 bags per ticket, no charge. And Jude and I got upgraded to Comfort Plus from Atlanta to Birmingham. So we got to check a bag. Oh, you know what? Because we flew with her, we got to check all one bag each on each way. So on the way back, we could check 6 bags, no charge. And I didn't check my rollerboard bag because I was like, I use it to put my backpack on so I don't have to wear my backpack. And I'm like, okay. And so that was a lot of stuff to say. A lot of times I just use my rollerboard bag to carry my backpack because it's easier to push that around on hard surfaces than wear the backpack. But I'm going to try my one-day trip, my short trip next week with just the travel backpack.
Yeah, it's funny because I tend to travel with the away bag plus the messenger, which I think makes a lot of sense for my use cases anyway, because like the messenger easily fits under a seat or overhead either way, and it has the one I carry has the back strap to slide over the handle for the roller, and so if I'm not going to be like lugging gear, if it's just I need a camera and or a laptop, or maybe not even that combination, then the messenger makes plenty of sense, because then I have plenty of room in the away bag, but I also don't have to carry anything over my shoulder because the straps around the handle when it's extended on the away bag, and so it just wheels everywhere.
Nice.
When we
Is that the V2 that does that?
yeah. Well, the V 1.5 did it as well, because when I had to replace my original, they no longer had the original in charcoal to replace it with. They had the second version of the original, but was not the second version of the bag itself yet, because they released an intermediary between the original and the V2 that had that strap added, but it was still the original dimensions and everything else. There was something else that was slightly different, and I don't remember what it was now. But either way, so now both of my messengers have that luggage strap on the backside.
I'm looking at the pictures online. I don't see the luggage strap. Is it a whole like?
It's just a big wide piece of fabric.
Fabric. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I see it now. So I wasn't sure. Because the travel backpack has like a much smaller, it's got a much smaller strap, much like the haul loop. It's that kind of similar kind of material, maybe less spongy. Whereas the everyday backpack has the big fabric pass through for the handle of the rollerboard bag.
Yeah, when we did our European trip, I wish I had had my away bag then. I ordered it right after that because of the way I ended up packing things for that trip. Because for that trip, I had my travel backpack, my everyday backpack, and the messenger as my luggage. And Emily had the away bag and whatever bag she carried in addition to it, because we were doing everything where we didn't have to check it. And I don't remember why the combination of the bags worked, because I was carrying 3. So for whatever reason, I was able to carry 3. But either way, it was all because we were intentionally avoiding checking things because of all of the hopping around we were doing while we were there. But it would have been drastically better for me to have the away bag instead of trying to do 2 backpacks plus the messenger. Or maybe it was just the 2 backpacks. Maybe that's why that would make more sense. So the everyday backpack and the travel backpack were my 2 bags, because the travel backpack would have been big enough for me to fit stuff in for like clothing and everything else and still slide in the overhead compartments. And the travel backpack would have fit underneath the seat. So that's what it was. So basically, just me carrying 2 backpacks was not as ideal as it could have been.
Gotcha.
Which I think we talked about on an episode at some point as well. But
I'm sure we have.
Because I think I remember making the comment about I was hiking with basically an additional 35-ish pounds of gear everywhere because of...
Oh, yeah. If nothing else, this will definitely be... if I do get an everyday backpack, this will be actually a really good day pack. Not too heavy.
Yeah, I tend to... So I have the one everyday pack that I keep packed up and ready is my climbing bag, and which I hope to actually leverage this summer now that I trust my finger again. But having one for a climbing bag means it actually makes a lot of sense for the other one to be my general go-to outdoor bag, because I'm already used to it for that from that perspective, and I have different use cases for climbing versus my general outdoor hiking and everything else pack. So that might be a path that I go as well, but honestly, I have to get back into doing other things again, other than trying to make a living with all of my other things that I'm doing. Yeah. So we'll see. It was a long segment for me to basically say that I will probably still buy more Peak Design bags and add to my collection, and do not regret any of them.
Should we talk about a thing?
Probably. Which one do you want to start with?
I feel like either the first 2. Either one would be. I think they'd be relatively short, and because we've gone on for a bit now.
Yeah, and I've referenced Bill Burr as a precursor to talking about him on one of the previous two shows, because this is carried over a couple of times. So let's start with that one.
Okay. So I saw this clip of him. I'm trying to remember which show he was on. I think it was it Conan or it was Conan O'Brien's show. He's I don't remember when this was released. It was uploaded to YouTube. At least the clip I saw was uploaded to YouTube at least 6 years ago. But he goes on. The clip is called "Bill Burr Got in Trouble for Making Fun of the Military," and I saw this clip and I was like, and I don't know if you can insert it here or not. I don't know if it's copyrighted, but I saw it, listened to it. I was like, he has, his shtick is like, he's gonna, not nothing is sacred, but he's gonna call things out for what they are. And there's this whole thing about I got to thinking, it's like, we've been duped into swooning for the American soldier. And I think it was Bill Burr who said that, like, everyone is a fucking hero. And it's like, initially I had this thinking of, in my 20s and 30s, really, I had this thought that when soldiers came back from Vietnam, so many of them were inappropriately, there was a prejudice against the Americans, in many cases, an inappropriate prejudice against the American soldier. At least I think that. There certainly were some bad actors, and really what we know is that our government was the bad actor. Like, we should have never been over there. And it doesn't matter how complex or how nuanced anyone's argument is. I don't think that the United States should have been in Vietnam should not have had the military presence that we did have. And so I felt like in my 20s and my 30s that, we've shifted and we focus. You know what? How we treated Vietnam vets was not okay, and I would still hold to that. But we have swung in the other direction, and initially I thought it was like, let's separate the soldier doing his job versus the military brass and the government that is having them do a job that they shouldn't do. And I still hold to both of those things. There's a soldier that does his job. Some of them do the job incorrectly, much like the police do. And there's a systemic problem of the brass and the government putting them in places where they should not be. That is neither here nor there for this argument. But we have swung in a different way, and I think it is, in my opinion, I really feel that the government has pushed us to do this so that we it's not that they don't deserve the respect, but we like swoon over them inappropriately. And I think it is a cover up for, we're not gonna criticize the soldier, and therefore we don't criticize the government. That's my
yes.
These are rough thoughts. I haven't,
Yeah.
I saw this, wanted to talk about it and put some rough thoughts out there and get some feedback. And
there are so many bits and pieces to it, though. Like, I guess part of where I'm having a little bit of trouble drawing a line is the U.S. military. Like, we do the same thing with other professions as well, and then ignore other professions that should be held to maybe a higher standard. For example, we talk about the military obviously is held in relatively high regard. I would say law enforcement is iffy depending on the day over the past few years. But first responders in general tend to also kind of be lumped into that category. And I'm not knocking any of them. But there's a difference between a first responder who is a paramedic, EMT, firefighter, as opposed to a first responder who is, for all intents and purposes, a good Samaritan with some training kind of thing. And we make that distinction well enough. Why don't we do the same thing for everything else? Like, there's a huge difference between frontline infantry and the JAG Corps, like take your pick. Like the military, I guess the way I would, maybe to the same point, the military basically encompasses every available occupation outside of the military. And so, and some additional ones such as infantry and armor and artillery and things of that nature. Any of the more mundane roles, and I'm trying not to make it sound negative, but any of the roles that have a very direct civilian counterpart aren't really the same as that frontline person who is experiencing the horrors of war firsthand. And so, while I agree in general that there's a certain amount of respect for military service or a certain amount of respect for first responders that is earned to a certain point, everyone, regardless of role, can be joked about. Like that seems like a very strange disconnect between, like, just because you do this thing, like there's a certain amount of respect and acknowledgement of your service or your duty or however you want to phrase it, but that doesn't mean you can't be the brunt of a joke.
Well, yeah, because it's because that particular joke that Bill Burr made about the military, he's not punching down onto the military. He's punching up at what sort of like the attempt at pulling the wool over our eyes and asking us to, hold military personnel in such high regard so that, you're not paying attention to what we're asking them to do, or, the peril that they are needlessly put into. Like what comes to mind is the trash burning that Jon Stewart I don't want to say exposed, but maybe exposed is the right word, but brought to light in his show, The Problem with Jon Stewart.
That he very publicly campaigned to
yes.
make some changes or yeah.
Yeah. So it's a matter of, like, there is a certain amount of respect that military personnel have earned. Maybe not all of them, maybe the majority of them. Same thing with first responders. But at the end of the day, it's also their job. They signed up to do certain things. And
I think part of why I struggle with the train of thought in general is, for me, respect is 100% something that you earn by your actions, what you do, what you say, how you live. No one is given respect until they have earned it. And the problem that I have with the conversation in general is that most where this is coming from is it's coming from people who say that military service equals absolute respect.
It does not.
Yeah. I mean, unequivocally, it does not.
Respectful behavior, respectful actions earns respect.
Correct. And I think, there's a separate aspect of this that is tied to some generational differences that I think you hit on with the reference to Vietnam as well, where previous generations saw authority as a position of power and therefore a position of respect, whereas subsequent generations have identified that a position of power and a position of authority grants you a certain amount of power and authority, but it does not mean that you are granted respect. And that's the disconnect, because it's a different lens that we view that group or person or organization through, saying, yes, you have the power to do this. That doesn't mean that I respect your position or how you've gone about it, or et cetera, right? There's a disconnect between, just because you can doesn't mean I have to agree with it or even think it is appropriate or give you a non-critical pass. Power and authority does not mean you can't be criticized. And that's been the core message that has been difficult to get through from media perspectives, talking about political discourse over the past few years. Like, take whatever arena you want. When you talk about the military and this particular topic with Burr, that's the piece that is problematic. It's that for so many people, instead of being able to accept that, yes, military service is something to be applauded because you are volunteering or signing up to do this thing that not everybody decides to sign up to do, it doesn't mean you can't be criticized for other actions that you partake on that journey. You can sign up for the military, you can be frontline infantry, and you can turn and run at the first sign of danger, and you can be criticized for it. That's not something that is problematic. And I know that's an extreme example, but it's the same general concept. And that's where I have so many problems with trying to verbalize specifically how I feel about this topic.
Mm-hmm. I think it's hard because I don't want to inappropriately slander or
excuse me. I'm going to jump in real quick because I think the struggle that we're both having is that I know plenty of very, very upstanding, phenomenal people who have served in the military that I love and adore and give the utmost respect to. And we're trying to walk that line between not disrespecting them, but being able to call out that some people may not earn the untouchable status that other people seem to want to convey to anyone who has any level of service in this arena.
It's like I want to point out all the bullshit that I see in the field, but not say the entire field is full of bullshit. So I was thinking as you were saying this, there was prior to I'm gonna pull out the discussion we had with the turnings that we discussed in episode 130, and I'm going to say that in the awakening turning that the United States experienced in the mid to late 60s through the early 80s really corresponds well with the loss of respect for people that hold positions of high power. Really started looking past, your position, you know what, I'll be respectful of you for the position. There's certain positions that we respect the position, but not necessarily the person. And I believe I think there was actions that went beyond just be like, I don't even respect the position anymore because of the person you are and the actions that you've committed and the problems, the deeds that you've committed. And so we're trying to compensate for, I feel like there's been an overcorrection, but I think it's been on purpose. And I think that's the thing that really is in my head, is that, we want to be appreciative of people that put their life on the lines as their daily job, the job that they signed up to do. But I think it's been pushed in such a way that I think we're being duped into swoon over these particular positions, and we should be cognizant of that, and that we shouldn't just automatically say, "Oh, you were in the military. You're obviously done a good thing for our country." Well, I hope that you have, but maybe not. Maybe you didn't because you were asked by your, through the chain of command to do something that you shouldn't do, or maybe you just did something you didn't need to do because that's the kind of person you are. My ex's father was in Vietnam, and one of the things that he said that stuck with me is that the military doesn't make a man out of you; it just accelerates the kind of man you're going to be.
Interesting. I can see that. Excuse me. not to necessarily take it down a tangential side topic, but just as a point of, I hadn't thought of it in quite that manner before, but I've seen it play out. Like everyone I know who has military service is either the type of person that I want to know and enjoy being around, or the type of person I don't want to know and don't enjoy being around.
Right.
And
right.
for the most part, in hearing their stories and general just information, it does seem to be accelerated to getting to that point during either basic training or shortly thereafter. Like all of them kind of convey this type of kind of settling into a role early on in their military career. So it is interesting to think that might be more than just anecdotal evidence.
Yeah. Well, and I think it happens again and again. It's like maybe every mission that a soldier goes on accelerates the type of man that he is, or type of person that he is, because it's not just limited to men anymore. But yeah, it's. I thought it was an interesting thing to think about, and I will say that I don't think that Bill Barr made any faux pas with what he said. He wasn't punching down on the military, and anything can be joked about depending on if is it punching up or punching down.
I don't think it really matters. Like the beauty of this country, if you actually think about what it means to be in this country, is that unless you are deliberately or unintentionally causing harm, you can do whatever you want in discourse. It's also a big negative, as we've seen with certain high-profile political personas. God, that was about the nicest way I've been able to reference. Anyway, before I...
Were you talking about the orange turd or the...
I was going to say, before I took it too far.
The bad Bill, the bleach blonde bad Bill,
yeah.
Butch.
Both of them. But yeah. Like the beauty of this country is that if you don't want to hear someone crack jokes about a topic, you don't have to listen to them. Like
that's true.
There is nothing that says that you, whatever person listening, must hear everything that Bill Burr says. Just like there's nothing that says you have to listen to everything Jon Stewart or Stephen Colbert or whoever. Like, take your pick. You can just turn it off. And the biggest problem that we've encountered over recent history is that people have taken it to a step of, you said it and it offends me, therefore you must be punished. And that's such a load of horseshit.
Yeah, I agree. You know what? I routinely did not listen to anything that that asshat said. I'm trying to remember his name. It's blanking on me. It's really bad to feel happy that a person dies, but I was pretty happy when this man died. Rush Limbaugh. I routinely did not listen to the bullshit that he said, and I was pleased to hear of his death. And that's a shitty thing.
I mean, it's no different than me deciding to publicly say that I've never listened to anything that Sean Hannity or Tucker Carlson has ever uttered.
I only hear them on the news comedy shows.
Yeah, I mean, same. I'll hear clips there, but but recently I've been reminded of this particular nuance to our general discourse because of conversations about crime rates. I don't know if you've seen some of the recent clips.
I have.
I mean, it's hilarious because this is something that I pay attention to year after year anyway because of my educational background. So like I've been making many comments that are very similar to the recent commentaries ever. Like we saw a big spike with COVID and then everything kind of is returning to normal. But the whole point is I feel safe as fuck in my neighborhood. Plain and simple. I can walk outside at night. I can walk around during the day. I can leave a door unlocked and go for a walk. Like, I feel quite safe in my neighborhood. If I were a Fox News listener, I would have myself locked in a room with the doors and windows barred, and a handgun at all times. Because to hear them say it, crime is everywhere. And it's bullshit.
It's bullshit.
I mean, there is no other way to put it. And
I'm sorry to use the same term over and over because it gets monotonous, but there's not.
yeah,
a better
I
word.
mean,
we live in the safest time, and probably for the large percentage, or for the largest percent of the human population, we live in the safest, most productive, best time in the history of humanity. At least that we know of. There are certainly some marginalized groups that are, most of them are still in better situations than their ancestors were. Not to say that they are in a good situation and that they shouldn't be brought up to where, not that they shouldn't be brought to a better situation, but humanity has never been safer, with the exception of somebody could push buttons could be pushed and nuclear weapons could be fired.
And so here's the big thing about crime. Like this is the one thing that is understood from a research perspective that people just don't seem to want to accept. Crime is one of two things 99% of the time. It's a crime of opportunity or a crime of passion. Both of those things are very different, but
they overlap too.
Like me in general, the likelihood of me being targeted for a crime is pretty damn low. Not for, plenty of different reasons. The likelihood of my significant other, who is petite, and I often worry about all sorts of worst case scenarios about being out and alone, on the street, whenever, doing whatever. Like, I have plenty of times that I worry about potential activity against her. But the reality is, she's still pretty damn safe. And the only reason...
Well, it's easy to not...
Go ahead.
It's easy to not go into unsafe places.
Yes, and the only reason I worry is because I'm just cognizant of the things that could happen, and I don't want those things to happen. And in order for me to maintain my sanity, I have to think about them and then squash them. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I do think that's a very generational mindset.
I'm not sure, because I think there's I think it is a good sense of self-preservation where it's like, all right, I thought about this thing, and the likelihood of this thing is almost no, but it might alter my behavior just slightly so that I keep that probability low. But then at this point now, I'm going to squash it because I do have to live my life. We do have to live our lives. But I would say the scary thing is that you live around more men than you do bears, and that's probably...
Touche. The only reason I said I think it's a generational thing is because if you think about how often Gen X was left to their own devices, like, we kind of thought about worst case scenarios and figured out risk assessment on the fly in a way that I don't think we appreciated for a long time.
Because nobody was watching, nobody was making sure that we were not doing dumb shit.
And so that's the only reason I say that I think there's a generational component, because I'm not so sure that future generations will continue to do that, or that they even need to. Like, I'm not saying it's a good thing necessarily, but I do appreciate that for me...
It was formative.
Yeah, for me, it's every step I take, every environment I'm in, I do a quick 5-second risk assessment to figure out where the exits are and what do I need to do, or where do I need to position myself, et cetera, et cetera. And then after that little mental exercise plays out, I'm good. It's fine.
So do you do that in every public situation?
Every single one.
Okay, so I only do that in certain public situations.
And again, that's the whole reason I just said I thought that there was a generational component to it. And I haven't seen any studies to do it. There may be a gender component instead. Maybe men are more prolific to, or are more likely to do this particular calculation. Maybe it's species survival kind of thing that's just slowly getting weaker. Who knows? But
Maybe you would have been a better spy than me.
maybe. But and it may just be because of my chosen hobbies and activities that I think about it more. There are so many variables involved here that I don't pretend to think that I have an answer for them.
We'd have to look to see if there was a survey or a study that was done on something like this. I'm curious.
Maybe at some point,
but see, I do like sit in certain places. Like, I think Becca would be more comfortable sitting on this side of the table versus that side of the table. Or like, I did do that not too long, I say not too long. I did it like last week. Within the past 7 days, I did an assessment like that in a restaurant, like no big deal. But I was like, you know what? I sat in a certain spot and I like had my eyes on certain people, but I don't do that everywhere. Like, I don't go to a close friend's house and I don't do the same risk.
Well, I mean, okay, I will give that caveat. Like, if I'm visiting the home of someone I know, that's a whole different story. But it's
like
yeah,
your own home.
But it's still something that the very first time I ever visit, I'm kind of mentally profiling those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is more geared toward just going to general public places than it is homes. That's the caveat that I will give.
Yeah. Well, I some of this conversation made me think of like I used to ride the subway in New York. It was not a bad line. It was, I was going from the Upper West Side to Brooklyn Heights, which is two affluent neighborhoods or relatively affluent neighborhoods. And because of my shift at Apple, they did a shift where they changed, like right after I got back from Genius training. They like literally the week I got back, my first day back on, they announced, hey, we're changing our model for repairing computers. And it's like, we're going to create a shift that starts at 2:00 in the afternoon and goes until 11 o'clock at night. And from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock, you get to repair computers uninterrupted. And I'm like, okay. And I really did like that shift. But so I'm riding the subway back at 11 o'clock at night. Again, two relatively good neighborhoods. It's like in New York City, it's dangerous if you go to dangerous places. But like, I was never, ever scared of my own safety or my well-being. Like, I was never afraid. Even like it was like me and one other person in a train. Usually it wasn't, but I was never afraid. But I did work with a manager. It was a man, but he was of Filipino descent, and he was about 5'5", and he got mugged in the Bronx. And because he's an easy target. I am not an easy target, and I think that's part of it.
It's funny. How do I necessarily? So, I don't feel like I'm an easy target, just generally speaking, because of my choice of activities primarily. But just I don't feel like I'm an easy target. The way I carry myself, the way I present myself, I think there's a certain amount of confidence, I think, that is apparent that most people wouldn't.
No, those are fuck off vibes.
See, I don't.
No, not quite.
I kind of would agree with that because apparently
it depends on who.
Apparently, I have like resting "I'm gonna fuck you up" face. Apparently, I don't see it. I don't. Whatever. But where I was going with it is, but I am kind of on the small side for an adult male. And it used to be I was very average height, weight, build, etc. But as we've gotten older, that has skewed to be a bit bigger in this country. And so, while I don't view myself as an easy target, I do recognize that I'm generally on the smaller side of most men that I encounter. Where I think that makes a big difference is the way I carry myself in general. And the only reason I kind of say it this way is because you were talking about the gentleman being a little bit on the smaller side. I feel that in a lot of situations where I'm definitely the smaller guy, but I'm really damn confident in my ability to make both of us go to the hospital if it comes down to it, you know?
For sure, for sure.
And I think there's a certain amount of that confidence that comes through that makes me not be an easy target. All of that to say that that is very much a learned kind of behavior. I think you could not be that confident but still exude that confidence if you were taught how to do so. Like there's a certain amount of almost swagger to a walk, or just the way you kind of square your shoulders that just seems to indicate a different level of competence about a person that makes them less likely to be a target. And the reason I have thought so much about this is because the way most, this is going to sound somewhat sexist, and I don't mean it that way, but the way most women carry themselves who have not had any type of self-defense training seems kind of timid, right? Like there's almost a, not hunching, but kind of a closing in from a body language perspective that makes them seem smaller than they are even. Whereas if they've received any kind of self-defense training, they tend to make themselves bigger. And I mean, we're talking maybe an inch. Like this isn't a...
Well, the difference between, just posture makes a huge difference. And I believe that our society in more than one way has told women to make yourself small. Many women do.
And it works against them. I mean, it's
It
not...
Like the women who don't, like you said, the women who don't do that, the women who don't minimize their presence are not target, or they're if they were going to be considered a target, there's certainly second guessing.
I'm not actually 100% certain how we got to that point from where we were either, but yeah, but to me, how you carry yourself is far more important than what you know. But if you know anything to be able to defend yourself, you're that much more dangerous. That's a good way to summarize the thought process, at least.
We got there about safety and crime.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I lost track of that piece, but that makes sense because I was semi-ranting about Fox News.
That's right. I was about to ask how we got to crime, and anyway, to wrap it up, I don't know.
Wait.
Well, okay, let me ask you, do you think that the military, and when I say the military, the people in charge of the military and the marketing, or not even the people who are in charge of making the military look a certain way, do you think that they are pushing this? Do you think let me back up. Do you think creating, overhyping the heroics of the military personnel is a planned, whether or not it was initiated as a plan, but do you think it is currently planned, let's keep this going to cover up our sins? I don't know if I said.
Yeah, I get what you're asking. I actually don't think so. And it's going to be kind of a difficult explanation why, I think.
I think I know we're going to go with this, actually.
The problem, the cover up, the like conspiracy, whichever word you want to use, it's part of the same general playbook that we see with overly conservative individuals in general who don't want to acknowledge something as simple as like the pride flag, or the fact that the LGBTQ plus community exists, or that there's something other than just male female from a purely biological perspective.
This is the alt-right.
It goes beyond the alt-right. Like, as much as I would like to make it be just the extremist views, this brings it down straight middle conservative America. Because there are a lot of people who don't think about what they post and don't think about what they say and don't think about messages. They see there are two genders, men and women, and they say, yeah, of course, that makes sense to me. There's no thought to it. There's no Well, what do you mean? There's no inquisitiveness. There's no desire to understand anything other than what they have been taught or have been brought up with or understand. And so there's a very strong conservative bent to general American value. And the problem with that is that it is rooted in honestly false belief. And this is where
Yeah.
it's really difficult for me to differentiate a lot of things. So I'm going to explain it in a slightly different way and see if it makes sense. Conservative America tends to want to proclaim Christian values, Christian norms, we should be a Christian nation, etc., etc., etc. Conservative America doesn't want to understand anything about why they are wrong. They are just surrounded by these same people saying the same things. And it fits their view, and they agree, and they love it, and they just want more of it. The problem is that that is not what society has shown us works or is American or democratic or empathetic toward humans in general. Any society that wants to pick very specific things that you can and can't do without regard for the repercussions of those things doesn't actually believe in bettering anyone's life. They believe in echoing the beliefs and philosophies that they have been told are just, good, proper, etc. And that's the dangerous situation we find ourselves in. And it's a long-winded way of saying that I don't think that it's confined to the military. I think this is the same general mechanism employed that you get from that same group of people saying, oh, but they decided to devote their life to military service and therefore should be respected. The same as that group would say, they decided to devote their life to protecting and serving as a law enforcement individual and should be respected. Or they decided to devote their life to protecting or responding to emergencies as a first responder and should be respected. And it's a carte blanche belief in the designed or desired ideal for that role and not the reality of that role. And that's the fundamental problem.
We have a number of different ways set up for you to get in touch with us to provide feedback, ask questions, or just comment in about something we've discussed.
You can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at untitled_hosts, or shoot an email over to untitled.hosts@gmail.com.
Or get in touch directly with Jesse at jthart.com, or get in touch with me, John, via telepathy.
If you would like to support our work or are interested in listening to our new after show feed, head over to patreon.com/theUntitledPodcast and take a look at the options we have set up.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you've enjoyed the show.
And we hope to connect with more of you as we continue this journey.
That's a wrap.
That was the ending right there. That was really good. I like, as you were going, I was like, "Oh, this is a good ending," because like that really is the problem. I think you really hit it on nail on the head. The only thing I wish I could have said before that was to bring it back around to comedians, where I guess the importance of comedians is that, laughter is the best medicine, and it is fun to laugh. But you know what? They find a way to take serious topics and point them out to us, which creates this kind of discourse.
We'll bring that into the after show, because I have, or the bonus. We'll probably won't do a full after show because I only have a real quick update outside of that anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
But to that point, like there's a reason the Daily Show became the number one news source for a certain generation, because they were able to make you think about things without having to say, oh no, you can't laugh at this because it's untouchable. It's something that you can't joke about or mention or anything else, or you're a heretic. And it goes to the same fundamental problem. if we don't examine everything about beliefs and philosophies and ideals and actually try to understand them, then they don't matter. And that's what people don't want to acknowledge, because they look at something. And let me maybe rephrase that. Because they want to accept at face value that something is true and complete and doesn't have faults, because it makes it life easier and it fits their narrative. For example, the classic, the Bible is true because the Bible says so. That's no different than saying the dictionary is true because the dictionary says so. Guess who wrote both?
We did.
There can be problems. There can be changes in translation and understanding, and who knows what. There are plenty of different things that can render some aspect of it fallible. The lack of being able to acknowledge that makes you just completely irrelevant to the betterment of humanity. Maybe that's the nicest way to put it. Like I was struggling with how I phrased that, because it's not that it makes you ignorant necessarily, even though I could make an argument that it does. And it's not that it makes you biased. It's that you have no furtherment of cause to making anyone else's life better if you're not willing to examine something. And that includes the self. And that's, again, fundamentally the problem. People don't want to examine their own beliefs, because that means they might have to admit they were wrong on something. And if you can't admit you were wrong on something, guess what? I got a news flash for you. You're wrong on more than one thing.
For sure.
The older I get, the more that one thing eludes me as to how people can hold on to something so vehemently that it can't be anything but that thing. I don't get it. Like I can take anything that I know or value and question it and be willing to change it based on evidence. How can you not live life that way? Like, that just doesn't make sense to me.
I don't know. It's lack, at the end of the day, maybe it's a lack of self-confidence.
Maybe. So I actually do have a theory. I wasn't necessarily going to go into it because I don't want to make it too long. But my theory is that people are so concerned about what is known, or making sure they understand what is known. They're just horrifically discomforted by the idea of something that is not currently known or knowable or defined. And so there's a certain amount of, you have to be able to be okay with something not making sense or something being unknown in order to be a decent human. And I mean, it's not a well-refined theory, unlike my labeling theory in general, but it goes hand in hand with it. They're very similar. I'm shopping around the ideas of how to make it a talk. It'd be great. It'd be a TED Talk.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
But I do think there is that aspect of, if you can't embrace something you don't know or can't define on the spot, you can't be a decent human, because you can't be empathetic if you can't understand something, whether you understand it or not. But that's kind of, in a nutshell, my theory.
I like it.
So my follow-up is more on the rib, actually. Last week, Friday, I did my first sparring since the rib injury, and it went fine.
Yeah.
And so Monday, I did 4 rounds of sparring, and it did fine. And I probably shouldn't have done 4, but I did it anyway. And so, like, I think I'm in the clear. Nothing has bothered me since then, and I was tired of not sparring. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's great news.
We'll see. I'll go to class tomorrow. So Monday and Wednesday are the advanced. I don't like saying advanced. So there are fundamentals classes, and then there are beyond fundamentals classes. And the reason I make that distinction is the fundamentals classes, you're still learning the techniques, concepts, etc. The difference is that you don't generally have proper sparring as a part of the class. The more advanced classes are the same thing. Sometimes it's a more advanced technique just because you have, theoretically a group of people who can understand some of the other basic fundamental concepts already, but then you typically have 10 plus minutes toward the end open for full sparring. So it's just a different class structure. But anyway, fundamentals and advanced for lack of having a better way to differentiate them. As of this week, so Monday was advanced, Wednesday will be advanced, and then Friday is a mixed bag. It depends on where you go, what professor, etc. Friday, I tend to hit specific classes out in Trustful because of that professor, knowing full well that it's going to be really advanced but open to everybody, and we're going to spend a lot of time sparring. So this week will be the first week that I have that class structure that I've hit, but things feel good. So I'm hoping that I am beyond the point of re-injury being a big concern, because things have felt fine so far, and we'll go from there.
That's great news.